Coast and in Hawaii and in Alaska know they can count on and depend on the people from Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and North Carolina, time after time after time after time. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the volunteers from Tennessee as well. And I know we have all the states, but those particular states come if we say like 48 hours notice. I know we can depend especially on the Virginians and Marylands and Pennsylvanians. Our next speaker is the executive director of the Richmond Tea Party. His name is Larry Nordvig.
It's great to be stared at by fellow patriots instead of my own government. Thank you. The purpose of government is to protect your rights, but the protector has become the predator, and we know all too well as victims of this. Our central government has become like a giant serpent coiled about us. It seems as though every time we take a breath, its death grip on our liberty tightens. It is time for us to strike back. The Declaration of Independence says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. So, where do we begin? Here's an idea. How about we abolish the IRS? I am not appealing to you today to merely audit the IRS. I mean to obliterate it. It is too powerful, too bureaucratic, too corrupt, and too easily used as a weapon against the American people. It is a faulty structure, condemned, a public nuisance, and it's time we use the wrecking ball to bring it down. We can easily replace it with a simple consumer-based tax, like the fair tax, that would eliminate the need for the army of agents of the IRS. But let's not stop the fight there. Let's repeal Obamacare. Let's eliminate our crushing national debt. Let's get rid of Common Core. Let's secure our borders. Let's deny amnesty to illegal aliens colonizing our country. And any other unconstitutional policy that violates our natural-born rights as citizens. You, the Tea Party, are the conscience of our nation. You must show Americans that they have a choice, that there is a better way. You must advance the vision of a free America which embraces constitutionally limited government, fiscal responsibility, and accountability of our representatives. You must advance this vision, and I have a message for President Obama and all of our officials, elected and unelected, from somebody who grabs onto his Bible and his guns. I say, from the Bible, thus saith the Lord, let my people go!
Thank you, Larry. Our next speaker is from Breitbart.com.
Steve Bannon.
He's the chairman at Breitbart.com.
Come on.
He was with us 3 years ago as we filled up this area the weekend that the health care law was passed. He's become one of my very close friends.
Steve.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you Stephen K. Bannon.
Thank you. Since we're running late, I'm going to cede my time to citizens so they can get up here and tell your stories. But Andrew Breitbart loved a good fight, and he loved fighters. That's why he loved the Tea Party. Go to our site every day. We're going to have your back in this long fight. People have said today, you own these buildings. Well, you may own them, but they're occupied by a permanent political class that is out for your destruction. And we're going to be there every step of the way because these people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you, Steve. The IRS illegally gave out the information of donors from the National Organization for Marriage. Please welcome Brian Brown.
I've got a simple, direct question for all of you. Will you be intimidated by our government? No. Will you be frightened out of gathering together with like-minded people to stand up for the truth about our government and marriage? That is exactly what is at stake here. Those people within the IRS, and don't tell me it was just a few underlings, we know that's not the case, committed a felony when they took our private tax information and gave it to President Obama's co-chair for his campaign. What were they trying to accomplish? Well, it's simple. They want to frighten you. They want to intimidate you. They want to stop you from donating to the causes that you believe in. And I'll tell you what, a lot of things, a lot of answers have been brought up, from abolishing the IRS. I also think some people need to be put in jail. But the most important thing that we can do here together, united together by our common beliefs, is this: never back down, never be intimidated, never let them silence you. God bless you for being here.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Rose Chenett announces on Hannity's radio program on Friday and help bring you guys here. She's our next guest speaker.
Hi, everybody. So I guess the reports of your death were greatly exaggerated, huh? How about that? I'm so proud of you. Look what you did in just a matter of days. Unbelievable. I want to tell you something. Mike Kelly, who is from my state of Pennsylvania, when he was speaking at the committee, full committee meeting, and he was talking about the IRS people who were not afraid, they talked about the victims of the IRS, not afraid to stand up and tell their stories. They were not intimidated. He said that that was a David and Goliath moment. I have news for you. You are David, and you know who Goliath is. And I want to remind you about David. You know, he was just a shepherd boy. Nothing spectacular, nothing unusual. Just an average person like the rest of us. But there was a couple of things he had that made him successful in bringing down that giant, because that is entirely what we plan to do, isn't it? Yes, it is. He had faith, he had courage, and he knew where the giant's weak spot was. Guess what? I know where his weak spot is. You are his weak spot. And he's coming down, baby. He's coming down. Because I want to tell you something. He knows when we're strong, he's weak. He knows that. He knows what happened during the midterm elections. He knows it's because of you. Listen, we're not going to give up this fight. This may be the biggest thing that you have been called upon to do in your lifetime. It may be the biggest thing that any of us have been called upon to do in any lifetime since our founding fathers were here. Am I right? Yes. Our call to duty is just as grand as theirs. I truly believe it. I believe that we, each and every one of us, have a purpose here today. I believe that God has put us where we are today to fulfill that purpose. Go get that giant, David. God bless you.
Our next speaker is a fighter, and he's not afraid to stand up to the leadership in the House of Representatives, the Republican leadership, his own party, when they're doing the wrong thing. Please welcome Congressman Tim Huelskamp.
Thank you. It's fantastic to see you here today. And one thing we need to remember, that this year marks the 40th anniversary of Watergate. 40th anniversary of Watergate. And for the folks here that are too young to remember, which I think is probably everybody in the crowd. Everybody in the crowd. Back then, the president had an enemies list. Back then, he spied on reporters. Back then, he spied on the telephone calls of American citizens. And back then, he used the IRS as an intimidation and revenge service to harass his political opponents. And then when all the president's men testified before Congress, some lied under oath. Others pled the Fifth Amendment. Does any of this sound familiar? Is it just me, or does this president have an awful lot in common with the 37th president? That's why I call him President Barack O. Nixon. Barack O. Nixon. The Republicans in the House, we must use our majority. Our subpoena power. We do have that. You got to use it, gentlemen, to expose the cancer that is growing in that House and in this presidency. One example will suffice. Exactly where was the president? And what was he doing during the Benghazi attack? Where was he? If Obama won't tell us, why don't we just send a subpoena to the telephone company? Thanks to the NSA, they know exactly where he was at on his iPhone that day. And if that doesn't work, folks, if that doesn't work, we can always subpoena the president's teleprompter. He never leaves home without it. God bless you and God bless America.
The Alliance Defending Freedom is defending some groups who have been targeted by the IRS, including a group where the IRS told them they could not advocate their religious views. Please welcome Austin Nimitz.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Patriots. Anybody here pro-life? Anybody here pro-life? That's exactly right. Well, let me tell you a story about you, because this pertains to one of our clients, Anya Joseph. She runs a pro-life organization in the state of Texas, and she waited 1,000 days for the IRS, 1,000 days to say that she was tax exempt. And in the course of making her wait 1,000 days, the IRS asked you and me to pay up 3 times on April 15th in that particular time period. Under no circumstances should it take that long. And while she waited, she was harassed by the Internal Revenue Service for her pro-life views. And she finally had enough and decided to record one of those conversations. And when the IRS was caught on tape harassing her for having the audacity to stand for the unborn in this country, they finally gave her her tax-exempt status. But Anya's story is like so many others we are starting to hear. But this didn't happen overnight, ladies and gentlemen. This started 60 years ago in 1954 when then Senator LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, slipped a little provision in the tax code known as the Johnson Amendment. And over the last 60 years, a culture of intimidation and fear has made the IRS into the monster that we see it now. And that law is still on the books today. We've got to repeal the Johnson Amendment. We've got to restore freedom to nonprofits and to churches and to pastors. This opportunity is absolutely critical. We're glad that you're here, but where is the church? Where are your pastors and your priests? Why have they been silenced from their pulpits by the IRS? Why is their freedom not being discussed right now? And that's why Alliance Defending Freedom started the Pulpit Project. We're having pastors and priests speak out on it. Pulpitfreedom.org. Please encourage them to go there. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
On the Drudge Report today, you may have seen that there is a Democrat, or who was a Democrat, Senator Albert Guillory. No. He's an African American who is now a Republican in Maryland. Did I mention Maryland?
Wait, what?
And there were 2 more in Louisiana he may not be aware of who have done this in the past 2 weeks as well. Listen, this happened because they were inspired by the message in our next speaker's book, The Message of Frederick Douglass. Our next speaker wrote the book, Frederick Douglass Republicans, the movement to reignite America's passion for liberty. Please join me in welcoming K. Carl Smith.
Hello. Earlier this morning, I had the pleasure to attend the congressional ceremony commemorating the statue of Frederick Douglass. A statue of Frederick Douglass now resides in the Capitol, and it's about time. More than 130 years ago, Frederick Douglass was asked his opinion about how the government should deal with the Negro after his emancipation. Douglass said this, and I quote, "Leave him alone and mind your own business." Today we come to our nation's capital and we're echoing the words of Frederick Douglass again, to leave us alone and mind your own business. The government has become too powerful and too big. They're using the IRS to go after citizens, to take away our God-given right for free speech. Leave us alone and mind your own business. Stop trying to be our provider and just be our protector. Close up the damn border. Leave us alone and mind your own business. The current administration got it all twisted. The government is not our master, it is our slave. Leave us alone and mind your own constitutional business. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Our next speaker is the CPA. Here the IRS targeted this person's group, the Chattanooga Tea Party. Please welcome Mark West.
In 2010, Barack Obama voiced these ominous words: "We are going to punish our enemies and reward our friends." You know, after 1,231 days, the Chattanooga Tea Party found out what punishment means to Barack Obama. Each of you, along with many of our fellow Americans, know that our government abuses are growing exponentially. And even the media, despite their hope and change bumper stickers, are now experiencing Obama's abuses. So what should we do in response to the train of abuses we are seeing? We must grow up and stop playing T-ball and start playing hardball. Listen, we don't send Cub Scouts to fight Al-Qaeda. And we should not send elected officials to this building who will not protect and defend the Constitution from those who are actively assaulting and destroying that timeless and exceptional document. A year ago, 12 Republican senators in that building sent a letter to the IRS demanding answers to the allegations that Tea Party groups were being targeted. Last month, though, a top Republican staffer told me that the IRS never responded to their letter. But here's the kicker. The senators took no punitive action against the IRS. Now you tell me, were the senators playing T-ball or hardball? Of course it was T-ball. Now defunding the IRS, or better yet, abolishing it, that would be hardball. When the most powerful man in the world threatens to punish his enemies when they are simply exercising their constitutional rights to disagree with Obama's devastating policies, what should we do in response? Play T-ball or hardball? So here's my personal challenge to the men and women in this building. Lay down your T-ball bats, pick up a Louisville Slugger, and let's play hardball. Defend our Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, or else step aside and we'll replace you. Or if we do not, this is what consider the warning from John Adams. Liberty, once lost, is lost forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark West. We are not going to lose our liberty. We are going to hold on to our liberty. That's why we're here today, and that's why we will keep fighting. Our next guest was on the first call organizing this, what is now this modern day Tea Party movement. She's from St. Louis. She has a radio program and is on The Blaze. Please welcome Dana Lash.
of liberty. We heard it from our fields, we heard it from our homes, we heard it from the classrooms, from our cubicles, and we answered. We marched on this city, 1 million plus strong. Don't tell me it wasn't 1 million, I remember the video. And from deep within us, it resonated. We are Americans. The fabric of our DNA is woven with courage and adversity and acceptance of risk, compassion. That is who we are. And it is because of this, our country is still crying out, and we have showed up here today. We marched here 3 years ago. We're here once again. We didn't take it in 2010. We're not going to take it now. We didn't take it in 2012 either. We gave them such a run for their money, they had to cheat to beat us. We gave them such a run for their money, they had to suppress our First Amendment, God-given civil liberties. These public servants, they targeted us. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. And why, I ask, why are we scared of them?
We're not.
They work for us. We are their employers. This lawn, we built that. The cars that these senators and representatives drive, we built that. We pay for that. We enabled you to drive it here.
That's right.
Marble buildings, we built that. We made their food. We pay them, folks. We built them. And as God is our witness, they either get right with we the people, abolish the IRS, or we will stop them in their home districts, in their offices, in the hallways. Keep at it, abolish the IRS. God bless you. Thank you, Tina. Our next guest was personally called out by name by the IRS in one of these questions, these long lists of questions that they sent Tea Party groups. The thing is, it wasn't even a group he was associated with. Out of the millions of people in America, they named Justin Bennick Thomas by name. Welcome, Justin Bennick Thomas.
The motto of the United States is E pluribus unum, which translates to out of many, one. The initial meaning was that out of the many colonies emerged one nation. The IRS took it to mean out of many people, target one person. I was included by name in the aptly titled IRS Inquisition in a question directed to the Liberty Township Tea Party group in Ohio. My name is Justin Bennick Thomas, but to the IRS, I am number 26. Out of everyone in America, they targeted me by name.
The next senator from the great state of Ohio!
The question asked Liberty Township to describe your relationship with Justin Bennick Thomas. At the time, the response was none. And now, thanks to the matchmakers at irs.gov, we can answer friends. That could be a future revenue enhancement. Calling out individual is significantly worse than calling out a group. As I tell my 3-year-old, that is not acceptable behavior. The primary concerns are obvious. Will I be audited? Will my small business be audited? And will other agencies receive the information obtained? The downstream risks as a result are much more serious, and we're seeing them played out in Texas right now. In addition to audits, we've seen visits by the FBI, by the ATF, and by OSHA. I'm speaking out today to protect my family as best as I can. Sunlight, as they say, is a great disinfectant, and perhaps, more importantly, I want to be instrumental in that hope and change, to borrow a term, to assure that systemic changes are made and the IRS does not target people politically in the future.
Yep.
When I learned of the letter to Liberty Township last year, I reached out to the taxpayer advocacy group with my congressman. I wanted to get some assurances and I wanted to get some clarifications. We didn't get any. One letter denied that they asked about individuals, and the other told me they could not tell me about me for privacy concerns about me. So I reached out to Landmark Liberty Foundation. They wrote a letter to the Investigator General that helped trigger what we have here today, and in some ways bring you guys out. This is not a political party, but a political issue, but a constitutional one. It is targeting of individuals and targeting of groups based on their politics. It's a very serious assault on our liberty, and it must stop now.
Our next speaker is from Cincinnati, and he is the president of the Southwest Cincinnati Tea Party. Please welcome George Bruneman.
Why is it now when you hear the word Cincinnati, I hear boos coming out of people? I am following up Justin Benning-Tomics, which is normally a risky move. I mean, out of 350 million citizens, he's the one guy the IRS wants to know why you're talking to him. But what's the worst they can do? They can audit me. Too late. They already did that. In fact, when they made the phone call back in January of last year, the IRS agent that made the call said, "You are being audited because of your association with the Cincinnati Tea Party." So when they ask, "Do you think you've been targeted?" it's like, she said so. So if your name is on a list that somehow the IRS has that says Tea Party Bruneman or Tea Party Smith, your odds of getting audited are about 1 out of 4. If you're on a normal tax return, your odds of getting audited are about 1 out of 10,000. There's a slight difference if you're associated with a Tea Party. I was not the only one targeted. There are many, many others. Now, I may have been the only one where the auditor was honest enough to say why, but that's not even really the problem. The problem isn't that the current administration used the IRS. Yes, that's a problem, but it would be very little thinking of us to say that's the only problem. In fact, the only problem isn't that there's an IRS. I agree, abolish it. Let's go to a fair tax. But that's not the only problem. The problem is our government has become so big now that its first concern is serving itself. Serving the government, not serving the people. Somehow we have become, we the people is now we the government. And that has to stop. It is up to us. Thank you so much for taking the first step, for being here and staying here, but I got bad news. This isn't enough. You need to go home and you need to take action. Thanks.
Thank you. George is speaking. When he says you need to take action, he has taken action. He held a town hall in Cincinnati about 3 weeks ago, and 500 people from the Cincinnati area showed up. It was standing room only, letting their community know about that. That's something you can do to help spread these words and these messages and these stories around the country. Follow in George's example. Our next speaker is known as the Gateway Pundit. Please welcome from St. Louis, Jim Hoft.
Hello, Washington! Hello, America! Hello, NSA spies! We know you're out there. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm one of the proud chirpers here today. Would somebody please tweet that to Jeb Bush? Thank you. I'd also like to thank Barack Obama and his lackeys in the IRS for breathing life back into the Tea Party. You tried to kill us off, but looky. We're back here stronger than ever. So now we know what happened in the 2010 elections. We were slandered, we were smeared, and we had Obama's IRS goons targeting us. We've been called all kinds of names. This week, CBS reporter Elizabeth Palmer compared us to the Iranian regime. All because we want fiscal responsibility in Washington. Unbelievable. For the record, Iran has given weapons to the Iraqi insurgency to kill our soldiers. The Iranian regime has given weapons to the Taliban to kill our soldiers. Iran shoots its own freedom protesters from rooftops. Iran hangs gays and beats women for not wearing a freaking headscarf. And Elizabeth Palmer says we're like the Iranian regime? Give me a break. In the words of my dear friend, Andrew Breitbart, and God rest his soul, respectfully, Elizabeth Palmer, go to hell. How dare you compare us American patriots to the killer Iranian regime? And Elizabeth Palmer and you hacks in the media, I hope you hear us today, because despite your slander, we will not be silenced, we will not be victimized, we will not be quiet, we will stand up, we will fight, and God willing, we will win. Thank you.
Our next speaker is from Maryland. Who's here from Maryland? Please join me in welcoming Dan Bongino.
All right. So, we got another fight on our hands. Another fight we didn't ask for. But, ladies and gentlemen, we only have a short time here. Remember what this fight's about. This fight is about that. That's not a flag. That's an idea. You pledge allegiance to the idea. The idea that's unique to this place right now at this time, that your liberty is the #1 priority your government has to preserve. Not attack you. Not attack you for believing in what you believe in. That Constitution, folks, was not a suggestion. That Constitution is one of the few documents that limits them, not you. People have fought and died for that idea, folks. That means something. We are the exception, we are not the rule. It is worth fighting for. Cede no ground in this fight. And thank you, God, for showing up today. It's an honor to be here with you. Keep on fighting. Remember that. Thank you.
A few weeks before the election, a friend of ours and a patriot in Wisconsin was being hassled and harassed and bullied because she had put up, or her group had put up, a billboard about voter integrity, and the unions did not like that for some reason. And our next speaker stood with me and with this patriot in Wisconsin as we had her back. And please join me in welcoming Niger Ennis.
Hello there. Thank you so very much. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have been marching arm in arm with you in this battle since 2009 in Tea Parties all across this great country. It's an honor to today be working for, as chief strategist, the TeaParty.net. But it is in my capacity as the national spokesman for the Congress of Racial Equality, one of our nation's oldest civil rights organizations, that I'm here with you today. You know why?
Freedom.
You know why? Because you are the modern civil rights movement. Just like a generation ago,
A generation ago, the civil rights marchers were marching for liberty. We are marching for liberty today. Just like a generation ago, Martin Luther King was targeted by J. Edgar Hoover and other nefarious government officials. All of us are being targeted by the IRS and other nefarious government officials today. You are on the right side of morality. You're on the right side of history. And God knows that if Martin Luther King were alive today, he would be with the Tea Party. God bless you. God bless our country. Keep up the fight. 2014, 2016, victory.
Thank you, Niger. Our next guest has been very patient all afternoon. And when we was out here the weekend, the Obamacare law bill passed into law, he stood with us starting at like 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning on that Saturday, was here all day long, and again all day long with us on Sunday. Please join me in welcoming American Commitment's Phil Carpin.
All right. You're the best looking crowd of dangerous right-wing extremists I've ever seen in my life. I want to run through some of the bogus, fake, fraudulent excuses that the administration and the IRS and their lapdog media lackeys are offering for their systematic targeting and suppression of political dissent. Number one, they said, we were just flooded with applications. We couldn't handle the workload. Does anyone believe that? They said that in a year that applications were down, according to the Inspector General's report. Anyone believe they just couldn't handle the workload? No! Holly Pass, the $4,000 Obama donor who oversaw all of this for Lois Lerner from Washington, D.C. Holly Pass, the Obama donor who sat in the room with her underlings in every Inspector General interview, making sure they didn't get out of line. Holly Pass said she thought Tea Party was an ideologically neutral term. The Tea Party could mean liberal groups. Does anyone here believe that? Why? And Doug Shulman. I don't like to go into the blame Bush stuff that the left does, but on this one I'm gonna blame Bush. Doug Shulman, the weasel, hack, slimy Democrat donor whose wife was doing Occupy trainings and bashing the Tea Party nonstop. Doug Shulman, who Bush for some reason appointed, is not a Republican. No. Does anyone believe that this was just a mistake that Republican staff made? No. And does anyone think that Sarah Hall Ingram, who was Lois Lerner's boss when all of this happened, does anyone think she deserved $100,000 in bonuses and a promotion to oversee Obamacare? No! How about $70 million in IRS bonuses this year? Does anyone think they earned those for suppressing us and shutting up political dissent? And how do you guys feel? A lot of you came a long way. How do you feel about the White House being closed to tours because they just can't afford it while they're giving the IRS agents bonuses? Get rid of all of these people. They should be in jail and Obamacare should be repealed. Thank you so much for coming.